Noah always said he didn't believe in fate until the day he found the pregnancy test in our trash can. And just like that, the air in our tiny New York apartment turned into something sharp enough to cut through bone. He stood there, barefoot on the cold kitchen tiles, holding the plastic stick between two fingers as if it might explode. The word pregnant blinked up at him, merciless and final. I watched him from the doorway, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it against my ribs. "Whose is it?" he asked, voice flat. I should have lied, should have laughed, deflected, said something like, "Relax, it's not what you think." But instead, the words slipped out fragile and trembling. "If it were yours, Noah, what then?" For a moment, the world stopped breathing. His eyes, those icy blue eyes that always seemed so sure of themselves, widened. I could see every emotion flicker through them: denial, anger, fear, and something else he couldn't name yet. Something dangerously close to heartbreak. 2 years ago, moving in with Noah Carter was supposed to be temporary. He was my college roommate turned post-grad savior, offering me a couch when my lease fell through. Alpha, confident, everything I wasn't. He had a laugh that could fill the room and a way of carrying himself that drew people like moths to a flame. And me? I was the quiet type, the beta who studied too late, apologized too much, and tried not to fall for people who could never love me back. At least that's what I told myself. The night it happened, the night that changed everything, was supposed to be nothing more than a stupid mistake. A haze of tequila shots, exhaustion, and comfort that turned into something neither of us could take back. He didn't remember. At least he acted like he didn't. So I stayed silent. I buried the memory, buried the feelings, and told myself it didn't matter. That Noah was just my roommate, my friend, my impossible dream. Until the test turned positive. Noah dropped the stick onto the counter, the sound echoing in the silence. "You're serious," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Who is it?" I looked down. "It doesn't matter." "The hell it doesn't." He slammed his hand on the table and I flinched. His voice cracked, rough and raw. "You're living under my roof, Eli. I have a right to know who did this to you." The word did stung. He took a step forward, his scent sharp pine and warmth filling the air, stirring something deep in me. "Was it someone from work? That guy from your office? Or Noah?" My voice broke. "Stop." "Then who?" I swallowed hard, my palms sweating. "If it was you," I said quietly, "would that make it easier?" His expression shattered. He froze like the world had tilted off its axis. And then he whispered, almost to himself, "You're lying." But I wasn't. The days that followed were a blur of silence and avoidance. Noah moved through the apartment like a ghost present but unreachable. He still made coffee in the mornings, still left the door open when he showered, still argued about the thermostat. But he never looked me in the eye. And I couldn't bear it. I could feel the distance growing like a canyon between us, wide and cold. The apartment felt too big, too empty. Every time he came home late, I imagined him with someone else, someone easier, someone who didn't break the rules of biology and reason. Because omega pregnancies were rare enough. But mea beta? Impossible. Or so they said. Yet here I was. Sometimes I caught him staring when he thought I wasn't looking. His jaw tight, his eyes soft, like he wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. Then one night, the dam finally broke. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through baby name lists on my phone because apparently, I like to torture myself, when Noah came in, smelling of rain and exhaustion. He didn't say a word, just stood there, dripping onto the hardwood floor, staring at me. "Eli," he said finally, voice low, "tell me the truth." I already did. He crossed the room in 2 strides and knelt in front of me. His hands trembled as he reached for mine. "That night. Was it me?" I didn't answer. His breath hitched. "Please." I met his gaze, then really met it. And the fear in his eyes mirrored my own. "You don't remember," I said softly. "I remember enough." His voice cracked on the last word. "You were crying." I thought it was just comfort. But God, Eli, it wasn't supposed to mean anything, I whispered. But it did. For a long time he said nothing. The rain pattered against the window, a steady heartbeat filling the silence. Then Noah reached out, tentatively, resting a hand against my stomach. Is it really mine? I nodded, tears slipping down my cheeks. He closed his eyes and a single tear fell. Then, almost inaudibly, he said, "Then you're not alone in this. Not anymore." But promises are easy to make in the dark. Keeping them under daylight's harsh truth? That's the hard part. The next morning, everything changed again. News of my condition spread faster than gossip ever should. Someone at work had overheard a doctor's call, and suddenly, whispers followed me everywhere. Beta, pregnant, scanless. It didn't matter that I kept my head down. Noah tried to shield me. He told off coworkers, canceled parties, even quit a client dinner because someone made a joke about me. But the more he defended me, the more it looked like we were hiding something. And eventually someone said it out loud. Maybe Carter's the father. That night he came home furious. "They're talking, Eli, about us. Let them. I can't just let them." He ran a hand through his hair. "You don't understand. It could ruin everything. My career, your reputation." I finished bitterly. Guess mine was never worth much to begin with. His silence hurt worse than shouting. Later, I found him sitting outside on the fire escape, head in his hands, the city lights painting his face in gold and shadow. When he looked up, his eyes were red. "I don't care what they think," he said hoarsely, "but I can't stand that they're hurting you because of me." I joined him, the cold metal biting through my pajamas. "Then don't let them," I said softly. "Be here. That's all I need." He looked at me, then really looked, and something in his gaze shifted. The fear, the anger, the confusion, they all melted into something fierce and raw. "I don't know what this means, Eli," he said, voice trembling, "but I know I can't lose you." And before I could reply, he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't perfect, it was desperate, messy, soaked in rain and tears, but it was real. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The next morning, I woke to the smell of burnt toast and the faint clatter of dishes. For a second, I thought I was dreaming because Noah never cooked. Ever. When I stumbled into the kitchen, he was standing by the counter, shirtless, wearing those ridiculous plaid pajama pants that hung low on his hips. His hair was still damp from a shower, and a half-eaten omelet was smoking in the pan. He looked up when he heard me, startled, like he'd been caught doing something forbidden. "I was trying to make breakfast," he said sheepishly. I blinked at the disaster zone. "You tried to burn the building down instead?" He grinned a little, that crooked smile I'd missed. "Guess I'm out of practice." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to keep my voice steady. "You've never been in practice, Noah." He laughed softly, and for a moment, the tension that had haunted us dissolved into something almost normal, something like before. Then his expression sobered, his eyes dropping to my stomach. "You should eat," he said quietly. "For the baby." The way he said baby, soft, reverent, terrified, made my chest ache. We sat at the table, picking at our breakfast in silence. The city outside buzzed with life, car horns and sirens and laughter drifting through the open window. But in here, everything felt fragile, suspended. Finally, Noah spoke. "I've been thinking. That's dangerous," I said, half teasing, half afraid of what would come next. He ignored the joke. "If it's mine, it is yours." He flinched but nodded. "Then I need to be responsible. We should figure out what this means." I put down my fork. "You mean what you should do about it? That's not fair." "Neither is any of this," I snapped before I could stop myself. "You think you can just plan your way out of this? That this is some project you can manage?" He stared at me, hurt flickering across his face. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Noah? Marriage? Moving in together officially? Pretending like this is something it's not?" "I meant," he said quietly, "that I don't want you to go through this alone." My throat tightened. "You already said that. And I meant it." He reached out then, slowly, hesitantly, like he was afraid I'd pull away. His fingers brushed mine, and the warmth of his touch nearly undid me. "Let me be here, Eli," he whispered. "Even if I don't know how." Days passed, then weeks. Somehow, we found a rhythm again, one stitched together with awkward silences and fragile peace. He drove me to doctor's appointments, stocked the fridge with fruit and vitamins, and built a crib that sat unopened in its box for days before I let him set it up. He was trying, God, he was trying so hard, but I couldn't shake the fear. Every time he smiled at me, every time he touched my shoulder or laughed softly under his breath, I wondered if it was out of love or guilt. And the worst part? I didn't know which answer hurt more. It was late October when the first snow fell. I woke up to the sound of Noah swearing under his breath as he wrestled with the old radiator in the living room. "You're going to electrocute yourself," I called from the couch. "Not if I fix it first," he muttered. "You're a marketing executive, not an engineer." He glanced back, a smirk tugging at his lips. "And yet, here you are, sitting there, trusting me with your heating system, only because I'm too pregnant to move fast enough to stop you." He chuckled. Then, suddenly, his smile faded. "Eli, when did you stop trusting me?" The question hit harder than I expected. I looked down at my hands. "Maybe when I realized that I wanted more from you than I should have." He froze. "What do you mean?" I met his gaze, forcing the words out. "That night it wasn't a mistake for me, Noah. It was everything I'd ever wanted and shouldn't have had." His eyes softened. "Eli." "No," I said quickly. "Don't say it unless you mean it." He stood, closing the distance between us. "You think I don't feel it too?" I wanted to believe him. I wanted to let myself fall into his arms and forget everything else. But I'd seen the way people looked at us, the whispers, the judgment, the way he clenched his jaw and pretended it didn't matter. "You'll get tired of this," I said. "Of me. Of being the guy who ruined your perfect life." He crouched in front of me, his voice trembling. "You didn't ruin anything. You are my life now." And this time, I couldn't stop him when he kissed me. That night, we made love for the first time since everything changed. It wasn't wild or desperate like before. It was slow, deliberate, filled with every unspoken word we'd been too afraid to say. When it was over, we lay tangled together, the soft hum of the radiator filling the silence. His fingers traced lazy circles over my skin, and for once, I didn't pull away. "I don't deserve you," I whispered. He pressed a kiss to my temple. "Then we're even." But happiness, I've learned, is fragile, especially when you think you've finally earned it. 2 days later, his parents showed up. I came home to find a sleek black car parked outside the building and Noah standing by the door, shoulders tense, jaw tight. His mother, immaculate in a beige coat, looked me up and down with an expression that could curdle milk. "So," she said, her voice cool, "you must be Eli." I tried to smile. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Carter." She didn't smile back. "Noah's told us so much about you." Her tone made it sound like a crime. Noah stepped in quickly. "Mom, please." But she was already eyeing the small bump under my sweater. Her lips parted, a sharp inhale cutting through the air. Yes," Noah interrupted. "He's pregnant." Her eyes widened. "And you're telling me you're responsible for this?" "Mom, what were you thinking?" The apartment felt suddenly too small, too bright, too full of the kind of silence that hurts. I wanted to disappear. Mrs. Carter turned to me, voice trembling. You've trapped him. My son has a Futuria family name, a career, and you've enough," Noah snapped. "Don't talk to him like that." Her eyes flashed. "You're throwing your life away for him?" He looked at me then, his hand finding mine. "It's not throwing it away," he said softly. "It's building something new." They left soon after, the sound of the door slamming still echoing in my chest. I stood by the window, staring out at the snow-covered street, my hands shaking. "Noah," I whispered, "you didn't have to do that." He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Of course I did. But your parents will get over it." I turned in his arms, searching his face. "Will you?" He smiled sadly. "I'm trying." That night, he held me tighter than ever before. But I could feel the tension beneath his skin, the war he was fighting inside. And somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of it. Winter came hard that year. I quit my job after too many pointed looks and whispered conversations. Noah offered to cover the bills, but the thought of depending on him made me feel like a burden, not a partner. He worked longer hours, came home later, his eyes ringed with exhaustion. The apartment filled with silence again, heavy and cold. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd find him sitting on the couch, staring at the crib. "What are you thinking about?" I asked once. He didn't look up. "What kind of father I'll be?" "You'll be a good one," I said. He smiled faintly. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He reached out then, taking my hand. "I'm scared, Eli." I squeezed his fingers. "So am I. But maybe that's what makes us ready." A week later, his company offered him a promotion, a big one. The kind that came with a move to another state. He told me over dinner, his tone careful, cautious. "It's a huge opportunity, Eli. I could build something real for us, for the baby." "For us?" "Yes." I set down my fork. "Then why do you sound like you're asking for permission?" "Because it means leaving New York. It means change." "Change is fine," I said softly. "But not if it means losing each other." He leaned back, frustration flickering across his face. "I'm doing this for you. Are you?" I whispered. "Or are you trying to prove something to them? To yourself?" He didn't answer, and the silence between us said everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching snowflakes gather on the glass, wondering when love started feeling so much like fear. Noah came in quietly, barefoot, his eyes soft in the dim light. "You're awake." "So are you." He sat beside me, the cold air between us almost unbearable. "Eli," he said finally, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared of failing you." I looked at him, tears burning my eyes. "Then fail with me, Noah. Don't leave me behind trying to be perfect." He exhaled, a shaky sound that turned into a laugh. "God, you make everything sound so simple." "It is," I said. "You just have to stay." He reached for me then, pulling me close, resting his forehead against mine. "Then I'll stay." And in that moment I believed him. But love doesn't erase fear, it just gives you a reason to fight it. And in the months that followed, that fight would test us more than either of us could have imagined. The last few weeks of pregnancy felt like living inside a storm that refused to pass. Noah and I were together officially, whatever that meant, but it was like walking on cracked glass. Every laugh, every quiet dinner, every touch carried an unspoken question between us. Would we make it through this? He had stopped talking about the promotion, but the shadow of it lingered in every conversation. He'd pick up his phone, check his emails, stare too long at messages from his boss. Then he'd see me watching and put it away, smiling like it didn't matter. But it did. For both of us. The night it happened, New York was half buried in snow. The streetlights painted everything silver, and the world outside our apartment was silent, except for the sound of my labored breathing. "Noah," I gasped, clutching his hand. "Something's wrong." He was already on his feet, panic written all over his face. "Hospital. Now." The drive was a blur, sirens, red lights, his voice trying to keep me awake as the contractions hit harder, faster. I remember him holding my hand the entire time, whispering, "Breathe, Eli, please, just breathe." And then the world dissolved into pain, light, and the sound of doctors shouting. When I woke up, everything was quiet. The sterile white ceiling above me blurred as my vision cleared. My body ached, heavy and hollow at once. Panic flared in my chest. "The baby," I whispered, my throat dry. A nurse smiled softly. "He's in the NICU, breathing on his own but small." "You did great." I turned my head, and there he was, Noah, asleep in a chair beside the bed, his head resting on his arms. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair a mess, and his hand still clutched mine even in sleep. For a long time I just watched him, This man who once thought love was something to avoid, who had built walls so high even I couldn't climb them, who now looked like he'd fallen apart just trying to keep me alive. When he stirred, his eyes met mine and everything inside me cracked open. "Hey," he said softly, voice hoarse. "You scared the hell out of me." "I'm fine," I whispered. "The baby?" He smiled, eyes shining. "Tiny. Perfect. You should see him. Eli's got your eyes." My chest tightened. "He's really okay?" "Yeah," Noah said. "He's okay. You both are." And for the first time since this began, I believed him. We named him Liam. Noah held him first, his hands trembling like he was afraid he might break the world just by touching it. Then he placed the baby in my arms, his eyes glistening. "Look at him," he whispered. "He's ours." Ours. The word hung in the air like a promise, fragile and beautiful. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights, doctor visits, and quiet moments that stitched themselves into something like peace. Noah turned out to be everything I didn't expect: gentle, patient, fiercely protective. He learned how to swaddle, how to warm bottles, how to soothe Liam with that low hum he used to make when he thought no one was listening. Sometimes, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find him sitting in the rocking chair, the baby asleep against his chest, his eyes soft in the glow of the night light. "You should sleep," I whispered once. He smiled tiredly. "Can't. I keep waiting for him to stop breathing just so I can start panicking again." I laughed, and it turned into a sob. "You're a mess." He looked at me, tender and exhausted. "I love you, Eli." The words came out so quietly I almost missed them. I froze, my heart hammering. "Say it again." He did, and this time I believed it. But love, as always, doesn't erase the past, it just gives it a new shape. One afternoon, weeks later, a letter came in the mail. The company, the promotion. Noah's hands trembled as he opened it. He read it once, twice, then set it down like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "They want me in Chicago," he said quietly. I looked up from the couch, rocking Liam gently. "When?" "Next month." The air felt heavier. "And?" He hesitated. "It's everything I've worked for, but it's not New York. It's not us." I stared at him. "Then why does it sound like you've already decided?" He ran a hand through his hair. "Because I don't know how to be both things at once, Eli. The man I was and the father I'm supposed to be." I stood, my voice barely a whisper. "You don't have to choose, Noah. You just have to want us more." He looked at me then, his eyes filled with something raw and painful. "What if I mess this up? Then we fix it together." Silence. Then, finally, he exhaled, a small broken laugh escaping him. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not easy," I said. "It's love." The next morning, I woke to find him gone. Just a note on the counter. "Need to think. Don't wait up." I tried not to panic. Tried not to imagine him on a plane already. But as the hours passed, fear crawled up my spine. When he finally came home well past midnight, looked exhausted. Snow clung to his coat, his hair damp from the cold. "Where were you?" I asked. He dropped the envelope onto the table, turning it down. My breath caught. "You what?" He stepped closer, his voice shaking. "I don't need Chicago. I don't need the promotion. I need you and him. That's it. That's my world now." Tears blurred my vision. "You idiot." He grinned weakly. "You're idiot." And then I was in his arms, his lips on mine, and for the first time in what felt like forever, everything made sense. Months passed. The snow melted, the city came alive again. We moved to a quieter neighborhood somewhere with trees and sunlight, where Liam could grow up without sirens as lullabies. Noah built furniture he found online, swore at IKEA instructions, and painted the nursery himself. The crib, the one that once sat unopened in our living room, stood proudly by the window now. Every morning, he'd hold Liam up and say, "See that? That's your dad's city. One day you'll run it." And I'd laugh because for once he didn't mean money or power. He meant life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, painting everything gold, Noah and I sat on the balcony. Liam was asleep inside, the soft hum of the baby monitor beside us. Noah handed me a cup of tea, then leaned back, watching the sunset. You know, he said, I used to think love was supposed to make sense. And now, he smiled. Now I know it's supposed to make you scared and stupid and alive all at once. I rested my head on his shoulder. Guess we're doing it right then. He turned, kissed the top of my head, and whispered, Thank you. For what? For choosing me, even when I didn't know how to choose myself. I looked up at him, my chest tight with something warm and unshakable. You didn't give me a choice, Noah Carter. He chuckled softly. Good. We sat there in silence for a long time, the city lights flickering below, our fingers intertwined. And for the first time, the future didn't look terrifying. It looked possible. A few weeks later, on Liam's first night home without waking once, I found Noah standing in the doorway of our bedroom, watching us. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed, a small smile playing on his lips. You two look perfect together, he whispered. Come here, I said, patting the bed. He did. Crawled in beside me, pulling the blanket up as if we'd been doing this forever. I could feel his heartbeat under my palm. Slow, steady, real. Do you ever think about how it all started? I asked softly. He laughed. You mean the night I got drunk and accidentally fell in love with my roommate? Something like that. He turned toward me, brushing a strand of hair from my face. If I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the part where I terrified you with a pregnancy test? Especially that part, he said, because it gave me you, and him, and everything I never knew I wanted. Outside, the city hummed. Life went on. But in that tiny apartment, in the quiet glow of dawn, we were a universe of our own, messy, imperfect, and completely ours. And when Noah whispered, I love you, I didn't have to ask him to say it again, because this time I already knew he always would. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.